Welcome on board, everyone. We are going to kick off. Those who are busy networking will eventually hear my lovely voice and hopefully be attracted indoors. My name is Zarir Irani. I am part of the ICS committee, elected for my second term, voluntarily. Nobody pushed me into it. But I'm loving it. We just finished our AGM as a branch, and everyone endorsed our work. Whatever 2.5 tables were occupied, they endorsed our work, which we are thankful. But today's evening is very, very special. This is the second one on this topic this year. One was done by another organization, of which Chris and myself are part of. And this one transpired again out of a request from one of our sponsors, one of our platinum sponsors. They asked us to have a discussion and was also willing to be part of the panel until there was an unavoidable travel schedule and he had to opt out. But we've got an enlightened panel here today, and it is my privilege to introduce you to our moderator who promised off the record to keep the questions as direct, as short as possible. Chris Peters, please come on board and take the honor of asking all the questions to our panelists. I must tell you, Chris is not only got a decent enough sense of humor, which I approve of, he also claims to be somebody who is not into shipping. He's been the past CEO of Tristar. He spent 14 years and proven himself up the ladder from being in charge of the finances to holding keeping Con on the company, and has, as we know, the rest of the history. Tristar has done fantastically well right from Issue's days onwards. But more than that, Chris says he's not into shipping, but he says he's on shipping. So he understands numbers. He's ex-banker with me, and he is an extremely outspoken person, and that's why I approached him to moderate the session. Not only is he knowledgeable about ship finance, but he also is quite outspoken on his views and ideas about ship finance, energy sector, and does understand the subject. So Chris is now with Montfort. He looks after the sale and purchase thing. So if you have any sale and purchase brokers, that's the flower you want to hover around. Sorry, Chris, you pick enough to be a flower. So that's Chris. Chris, over to you. Take over the panel. You've got 45 minutes. We will have Slido barcodes up. So anyone who is wanting to ask questions, Chris is free to choose those questions and show up on that screen. And we already got some questions to come online from our attendees. Chris, I leave it to you. Introduce our guests and take it from here. So all yours.
Okay, thank you for that great introduction to it. And I'm glad you put the up on that screen, because at my age, I can't read that. So anyway, let's get the panel up here first. So let me first of all introduce Tien Tay. Tien is a lawyer who's been based in the UAE for over 15 years. He specialises in asset and international financing, including acting for financial institutions, shipping companies in relation to financing, chartering, new buildings, sale and purchase of ships. Tien was previously seconded to the in-house legal team looking after the ship finance team of major banking clients in the DIFC. Welcome, Tien. And then we have Shailesh. Shailesh is an ex-banker, don't blame him for that, and currently working with Best Oasis as the COO. He has been in the UAE for over 15 years and has worked with KPMG and Finland. Shailesh has extensive experience in investment financing and advisory services with a specialisation in the field of risk management and governance.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Bilal Ashraf. Bilal is he also has been in the UAE, so that's all of us here have played from here for over 15 years. So not only do we hope to know the industry and the business, but we also know the region as well. And Bilal is the head of energy and marine at the National Bank of Fujairah, one of the few banks that is currently lending to the maritime industry, and that's something that we will come on to today. So as Rick said, just a brief part about myself. Apart from previously being CEO of E-Ships TriStar, I left that a couple of years ago, and 18 months ago joined Montfort, where I spent the first year and a bit as the head of sale and purchase, while working on establishing the first regulated fund manager under the DFSA in the Middle East. We know there are many shipping funds and fund managers out there in Europe, America, and everywhere else, but there was not one in the Middle East. So as Montfort, we have now created Montfort Capital. And just a little giveaway in case people don't know this, the title that was up there on the thing for me, Senior Executive Officer. I didn't choose that. If you see that on anyone's business card, it means they're a regulated entity, because that's the title that's given by the DFSA. So you don't have to read the small print on the back of the card. Okay, so without further ado, we'll come in. I'll use some of the questions I have to start with, and then I'll see if I can read that part out. So as we have a current banker, an ex-banker, a lawyer, and a ship owner, all on the same panel. And I think what would be appropriate to start with is how has the financing landscape changed over recent years, and what are the options today? And we can get three really good perspectives on this. Let's start with the lawyer's perspective, which you seem to face the clients the most.
Thank you, Chris. All right. So I'm Tien. Good evening, everybody. The financing landscape has changed, I think, quite significantly. I arrived in Dubai in 2007 to look after, in those days, the trade and ship finance team in our Dubai office. And in those days, the ship finance market was predominantly looked after by law firms in Europe and in the mature markets in the Far East. And in terms of banks, we had a lot of coverage from European banks lending to this jurisdiction. And subsequently, in 2009, 2010, we also noticed a number of these European banks opening up rep offices in this jurisdiction. So, for example, Bank of Scotland, a great lender to the shipping market, opened up in 2010. A year before that, Standard Chartered Bank opened up in the DIFC in 2009. Seconded there to work with them to look after their ship finance team. And we had other European banks, the likes of Natixis and so forth, all putting people, boots on the ground in this region to look after their local regional customers, to offer M&A advisory, to offer local advice. And that carried on for a couple of years, and over the years, 2014, 15, 16, a number of these banks found it was actually not that easy to do business here, and subsequently Standard Chartered, the likes of Natixis, the likes of Royal Bank of Scotland, closed and moved their client relationships either back to London or to Singapore, in the case of Standard Chartered Bank. A number of the European lenders that have been significantly looking in this region, the likes of Bank of Ireland, the likes of Commerzbank, and other banks, they put their loan portfolios on sale, so they have moved out of shipping. And this is quite a common trend that we found in 2014, 2015, 2016. So I guess the next question is, shipping is so capital intensive, it needs financing. How are we going to finance this capital intensive industry? Can the GCC bank step in? Well, I think by and large, it's not happening. We have some exceptions, and some of the exceptions are here with us in the panel today. But by and large, if you go into a local bank, go into FAB, go into Mashreq, you go into EMBD, and you say, look, I'm building a vessel. I'm building a vessel in Hamburg, and I'm building it in Ras Al Khaimah. On delivery, she's going to be Panama flagged, and she's going to do voyages between here, India, here, and Singapore. And can I obtain some financing for it? The chances are you will leave empty-handed. These banks obviously know real estate finance, they know trade finance. If you go for these products, you'll get your financing. You go to them for a share finance product, the answer will be negative, unfortunately. It's just because these banks haven't really invested in the analysts' know-how and have the pedigree to service this industry. And we're actually, very lucky to have Bilal on the panel with us today to give his insights as one of the GCC banks who was actively financing the energy and marine sector in the UAE. So the financing landscape has changed. The European banks in some way have moved out. The GCC banks probably can't take that space. They're going to be very busy, but probably can't fill that space. But other alternative lenders have also started looking at this market. So the alternative financiers are what we call the alternative lenders. And they're quite an interesting outfit because the likes of Elantra, the likes of Australis, the likes of Neptune, you fly in and fly out, some are based here, specifically looking at their sweet spot, what I consider to be asks of between 10 and 30, 35 million. If you're a well-regulated owner, you have a clear structure, you have strong management, you know what you're asking for, your execution focus. These are the types of owners I think the alternative financiers can really partner with you. And we've seen a number of transactions being done by these alternative financiers. We've also seen Chinese lessors come in into this market. It's interesting. Just over Eid, we were party to a transaction with representing an Abu Dhabi-based owner. They, about 2.5 years ago, ordered 6 new MR tankers in Korean shipyard, and the final installment for the first vessel is coming up in August this year. And basically, we're arranging lease financing. We looked at a number of options on behalf of the owner, and the Chinese leasing company came up most competitive. And we started speaking to them over Eid, and I actually attended the delivery ceremony of the first MR tanker in August this year when she was delivered. So from Eid until August, we managed to get the financing in place, the bareboats, the sale and leasebacks in place for 6 MR tankers, and they were very aggressive in terms of financing, in terms of execution. So I think Chinese leasing companies, or maybe what I would consider more the mid or at least top tier owners, are certainly one to watch. Have I missed anything else?
No, I think,
Sorry, I'll get you quiet.
I think we've covered everything there. I'm not sure he left below.
Nothing left.
Very quick, would you like to add anything to that? Because I think as National Bank of China, you are probably the only local bank that is actually providing to a wide range of ship owners. The other local banks are providing corporate facilities to the government entities and the large corporates, probably more on a corporate basis. I think as National Bank of China, you have to explain what you're doing and you're helping the current ship owners.
So I think Shailesh right now is dealing with a lot of local banks, and he will give us insight as to who are the other competitors that we have who are in the financial space. So as National Bank of Fujairah, we are focusing in the marine sector since 2003. It's been few cycles that we have seen. We have seen the 2008 crisis as well. And I think that's the turning point. So I agree with DNS on all aspects he has covered. But I think it was the 2008 crisis where we saw that a lot of banks in Europe has stopped lending in this sector. And I think it was because of the higher LTVs, not focusing on the cash flows, where some of the drivers were why the banks started struggling in the space. I think that's where we, as National Bank of Fujairah, we were always quite conservative as a bank initially. I mean, we have taken few hits, but these hits were quite small in comparison to the portfolio size that we are handling at the moment. So we are having a hybrid model right now, whereby we are focusing on sustainability, wherein all the newer assets under construction that we are financing, we are looking into the green side, the sustainability side. But we have a larger portfolio on the conventional side as well, because these are the assets which are already trading, and definitely we don't want to see these assets getting scrapped, because there is a life which, I mean, the vessel should run as per the economic cycle, and we continue supporting these kind of assets. We are quite focused on bunkering, clean bunkering of fuels as well. So I think it's one-stop shop whereby we are trying to cater to the working capital on the maritime space as well, term loans and all the possible products that we can think of. And we also try to understand the business model of the companies so that we can tailor-make these solutions for doing business.
So before I come to Shailesh, if I can go to one of the questions on the screen. Does the bank think of the asset finance in isolation, or is it more of a corporate relationship in the focus that the bank has?
I think it's a mix of both, but definitely as a bank, we have been focusing more on a corporate relationship, not only in maritime, but in all the sectors that we operate in. We definitely help the customers in downturn and the economic cycles when they go on downwards. So it's a kind of relationship that we built over the years with all the customers. So I think it will be wrong to say that we are only relying on the assets. It's an overall relationship where we try to cater to all these services that we can provide.
Great. So Shailesh, she'll give you no financial governance.
Just similar to what even Nal has mentioned, I think we have a big vacuum in terms of the local lending. It still continues. We have local lenders, but those are the local lenders, not for our chartering business, those are for our cash buying business, and those are not really local. Those are Indian banks where we have Indian relationship. And this is, as Ram mentioned, is more of a relationship rather than being locally present. So I think Indian is captured most of the geographies where the lending is coming from. In addition to China, which he just mentioned, and this Japan market, which is quite open. We have seen a lot of lending which is coming from Japanese market at a good rate. So I think from the local bank perspective, there's a vacuum. The large size bank need to see how this industry can be supported, because this is a profit generating industry. It provides decent revenues, and Bilal has mentioned we have only few small hits. So if you have few small hits, this prevails in any industry. So I think that's where we look for support from the local banks.
Okay, so staying with Shailesh, you are, as you mentioned, your cash buying business is obviously for older vessels which are generally going to scrap, but you are also a ship owner. Now, with the traditional ship owning, how are you looking at the new green regulations and what are you looking forward to, or not, as the case may be, and how is that playing into the financing that you can see from the different sources that are out there?
We do. We have to, not just us, any ship owner. They need to look into what are the new regulations, the carbon credits which are coming in. We have already started buying those carbon credits to make sure that we are not away from the race. So I think in the long run, this is what it is. Any lender, NBF is very aggressively pitching on those carbon credits, looking into those lenders, looking from the lender's perspective. Any borrower needs to comply with this. So I think from the long run perspective, every institution, whether it's my cash buying business or my chartering business, we have to follow those norms which are required. We have already started investing into it, and specifically now from the EU perspective, we already started the vessels which will be going to the EU geographies. We need to ensure that we comply with those credits. We have those technical teams who are constantly looking into those requirements. So I think we are quite, I can say we are quite invested, and this ports will be able to generate revenues both in terms of chartering and in terms of growth of profits.
Okay, carbon credits, that's an interesting concept, that people are able to buy their way out of pollution. It's something the EU has introduced. So maybe for TA, you are dealing with some European banks. Are the banks actually looking in Europe, not here? In Europe, are they looking at the ship type and it has to be compliant with the regulations, or are they looking at the net of the company if they are buying credits?
It's an interesting one, not so much on the carbon credits, but what we are finding now is what type of asset can get financing, and that's a real question at the moment, because if you're looking at financing, for example, at one end of the scale, thermal coal, you will not be able to get financing from a European bank or from a national bank. Yeah, it's a very complicated subject, especially related to credits, credits, and whole ESG agenda. If you've got a polluting asset, and that's number 10 on the scale, and you've got technology, green technology to make that project green, and that's zero, anything along that delta will be called transition finance. And what we've actually found dealing with the European banks and speaking to some of the Asian banks is that FPSO projects traditionally have been financed, but the window is closing for these type of projects, and they are termed transition financing because it's ultimately there's either a sustainability linked angle to it, or there's a certain covenant that makes it more sustainable. But the FPSO project is very interesting. There are a number of frameworks and there are a number of checklists to tick for that bank before we can actually get the green light for such transition financing. That was 6 months ago. Query whether that FPSO project will still get sanctioned now. I think the window is closing, so it's a very dynamic situation.
Okay, so Bilal, your energy, so you're financing in the offshore industry as well as the marine industry. Now, a lot of the offshore industry, particularly locally here, they're starting to move to battery-powered vehicles. As a lender, you're quite comfortable in lending on the offshore sector, and there's no island industry and battery-powered offshore vehicle to produce oil.
So, I mean, what we see in the offshore sector in the region, I would say GCC, I mean, Qatar, Saudi, and North, still we are not seeing that there's a lot of regulations around the battery pack and the different variants for the greener assets. So, as and when, I mean, we do have structures whereby we are financing some of these working capital and short-term loans in order to see if we can ensure that the vessel is more greener in nature. So we have developed and designed some products on that. But overall, I don't see that there's enough traction right now in order to convert all of these assets, because all of these assets are working on short to medium term charter. So it's very difficult to stop these assets from the field, the oil field and the maintenance that is happening. So as and when I think these vessels will come for dry docking, that's when you will see that some of these vessels will get converted in the normal. But what I see is that nothing is going to happen immediately. It is something that will happen over a period of time. It will be a gradual process, and I see that it will take at least 5 to 7 years for all these vessels to get converted and be more sustainable.
So, Travis, do you think vessels can be converted, old vessels, or do you think it's going to come more from the new build market?
It will be mostly on the new build part, because the older vessels, there's a lot of operation cost, environmental requirements. So those are not equipped to match the expectation of the environmental friendly vessels. So I think it will be mostly the new build.
Yeah, so that's interesting, because I actually think some of the older tonnage is still the opportunities for conversion and or a second use of life. You know, when we look at PSVs with a big deck space, they can be converted to service offshore wind or help be converted to service the offshore turbine, to service offshore wind turbines. With assets such as ships and offshore marine vessels, their design tolerances are much less compared to something like an aircraft or a private jet, where any modifications need to be very carefully calibrated. If you've got a container vessel, without too much modification, put a scrubber on or new equipment on, and by and large, you can get the energy savings, the operational efficiencies following those modifications.
You know what we use scrubbers.
Enlighten us again.
Scrubbers, they take the sulfur out, but basically you just provide compliant fuel. So scrubbers are a waste of time. They're not environmentally friendly. They just basically take sulfur out of the atmosphere and they dump it in the sea. They do that in international waters, and they're not allowed to operate in all European ports. Scrubbers are just a way of somebody saving a little bit of money. Use the compliant fuel and don't use them. Anyway, so I'm supposed to be asking and answering the questions. So this comes into obviously the cost of ships. Now, ships have pretty much gone up by almost double in the last 10 years. Ships that you could do new building for in 2014, 15, 16, 30 million now costing north of 50 million. So not quite double, but almost a double. So again, for shortly, and also at the same time, interest rates have gone from near zero on base rate to 5% plus. So how do you see the cost of finance affecting, along with the cost of the assets in the first place, any new building program that you might have, or even second-hand purchases?
On the new build side, yes, we have a couple of new builds which are in pipeline. And as you mentioned, the interest rates have gone up, the prices have gone up. But parallel to this, the chartering hire has also gone up. The charter is doing quite well. So when we look into the financial model, we see still at a higher rate, those vessels are able to generate revenue, that is the new build or if we are older tonnage. The challenge comes to the segment, for example, the offshore segment, it's quite competitive. In spite of the increase in price, the charter has doing fantastically well. But when it comes to a tanker segment, yes, the prices are quite high and the income generating capacity is anything more. I think one of the questions which I can see is where the ship owners, they are sitting with cash. I think that's what the issue is in the tanker segment. The majority of the ship owners, they are sitting with cash. They don't want to dilute, they don't want to sell the vessels in spite of there's a mismatch between this. Coming to the interest rate, yes, I think it has gone substantially that it has costed us increase in our costing. Ultimately, it has been transferred to the charters. But again, we have to look into the cycle. This is a cycle which comes in every few years and it goes down. So from 5, everyone is clear that this will go down to level 4 or 3, say a span of 4 quarters. Already the forwards for interest are discounted rate. So I think when you do a costing, you look into not just a short-term cycle, you look into a long-term. If it's a new build, you're talking about 25, 30 years. So we have to build a weighted average cost. I have to look into my equity, I have to look into my borrowing. I have to be very careful when I'm looking into my borrowing cost and equity cost, because equity is more expensive as compared to borrowing. So I may pick a lender who might be giving me a higher loan to value. It will be a bit expensive than the other lender, but if you see on the weighted average, the cost gets reduced. So I have to make sure I do those combinations to see what is the best fit, and accordingly we do our costing. Either it's a short-term project, which might be a vintage old vessel, or it's long. Short runs are more easy to assess because a vessel is having 3 to 5 years life. It's very easy to assess. But if a vessel, a new build, talking about 25, 30 years, those are the years that you are getting exposed to.
Okay, now I would argue on the cost of borrowing that over the last 30 years, bar 1 to 2%, it hasn't changed. And I will say simply, if you look at the 1990s, when the interest rates were 7-8% plus a margin, and they came down to sort of 5-6% through 2008, and the banks were giving you, the European banks were giving you margins of less than 1%. We then went to near zero after the financial crash, and margins went up to 4-5%. Some good owners might have still got less, but not many. And now interest rates are going to start to come off, and margins, you're lending at No, but I'm not going to ask you to put
There's
the
a big
numbers
base
out.
that we did.
But basically, the interest rate, the cost of debt has been between 5 and 7% for the last 30 years for a triple B plot. Okay, there is a 2% is quite a lot, but on average, the cost of debt, I would say, hasn't changed. I mean, would you want to give an opinion on that?
So what I see is that there are a lot of funds. I mean, and funds are the most popular choice that any shareholder has as of now. So if you see the pricing comes all in all to 12 to 13%. So in any case, I think shipping has been immune of paying a higher margin as well as a higher, I mean, the interest cost is really high. So when I see from the bank's perspective, I think the pricing is quite better compared to the funds because the banks are pricing it say in the range of SOFR plus 2 to SOFR plus 3.75. I think that's the range where I see all the banks are currently structuring the deals depending on, of course, the life of the asset and the cash flows attached to it. Plus, I mean, with banks, the benefit that the customer gets is that the cycle built up. I mean, no matter what we think, I mean, the cycle is going quite well right now, but there will be a downside. There will be a down cycle. That's where you will require the banks for restructuring, for refinancing. There are so many things attached to a longer term loan tenure of 8 years when you forecast it. So I think the pricing from the bank's perspective is quite competitive, and I mean, people like it.
Just a brief comment, but I think we can accept that we are operating in a generally high interest rate environment at the moment. And just last week, we were speaking to an alternative fund, and I was asking how his business, and he was saying business is great. You know, here in the region, I'm speaking to a number of owners, because the cost of borrowing for the traditional banks has gone up. It's actually making my product more competitive. So these funds, they're deploying institutional capital, and the institutional capital just are looking at absolute returns, regardless of whether interest rates go up or down. So yeah, it seems like the funds at the moment are active and sort of enjoying the wave of this high interest rate environment.
In continuation to what you just said, I think there is also an element that the charter rates, as Salesh also mentioned, that the charter rates, when the ship owners have enjoyed the higher charter income in the last 2 to 3 years. So that's the reason why I'm not seeing enough stress from the ship owners' point of view that they complain that the interest rates are quite high. There will be always situations. I mean, there will be always ship owners who will be struggling, and not only because of I mean, maybe because of their business model and things like that. But overall, I've not seen any stress in repaying the debt.
Absolutely. You were saying, everybody's just cash rich at the moment. And again, anecdotally, we speak to a number of ship owners. One we spoke to last week in JLT, his leverage ratio is 10%. So, yeah.
I mean, I have many examples right now. The LTV is like less than 15. They're not bothered about anything. There are one of these settlements happen. Yes, I'm not deny that. But at the same time, I mean, things are fine. I mean, the financing side.
So staying on this topic, taking one of the audience questions, which is how the factors like ship age, ship type, guarantees, company structure, documentation, and interest rate affect ship financing. So these are factors. I assume this has come from a student, which is good. It's a question I think that each of the panel should give their ship owner first, and then we come to the lawyer last. Otherwise, we'll cover anything before we go to.
I think it's a very interesting question because every element, what has been listed over there, affects the borrowing. A ship age, yes, it does. Older tonnage, so older tonnage, anything about 10 years, the pricing goes up. It's a younger tonnage, it's fine. Ship type, yes, when it's a bulker or a tanker, it's easier to borrow at a cheaper rate as compared to an offshore segment. Guarantees here, it's a soft instrument, but it still attracts cost of the organization. The structure here, it does. If I am holding company, which hold many companies, my borrowing capability goes up, my cost goes down. But if I stick to an individual company, I have companies in silos, and definitely my cost of borrowing also goes up. The documentation, yes, is never ends. I have a lawyer next to me. When when I'm doing a borrowing, for example, specifically in the shipping space, it's very complicated. I have a company based in UAE. My, say, bank account is in Germany. My shipping entity is in Liberia. I have to get opinions for all of them. So it adds to my cost. I have to see how I can minimize them. Interest rate, as I mentioned, again, it depends on the maturity of the organization. There are organizations where they are double A rated, they might be able to go at a cheaper rate, but a mid-size corporate, I think for them, it's very important because they will not be, as you mentioned, they will not be able to go below a step. A large size corporate can go even at 2-3% borrowing when the base rates are say 0.15 to say 30. But for a mid-size corporate, it will always be above 5. So yes, I think these are all important parameters and a lender can answer more. But I think everything is being factored in.
Well, I'd say,
Costing is being done.
yeah, what I would say is missing from the question is the leverage and the employment. So obviously, factors of how much leverage you get, and maybe this is put about if you have a new building ship and you have I mean, if you did a long-term LNG with a 15-year contract, then you can obviously borrow more than if you have a short-term ship that's can be chartered into the spot market. So going home to allows a banker to answer the same question, maybe having about leverage and employment.
If you ask me, like, I mean, what is my sweet spot? When I see the portfolio, I think I like assets which are like close to the write-off on the 20th view. That is when, I mean, I'm talking from the shipping point of view. That is still has 5 to 10 years to go. And what I see is that the risk element in this is the tools, because the asset values will move up and down, but not that it is not that volatile. So when I price a deal, and if it is 90 to 20-year-old, I mean, I find it quite easy. The pricing really is easier on a older terms, which most of the banks and the financial institutions may won't agree on it. The newer vessels, I mean, the LTV will be, it can be in the range of 75, 80, and in some cases where you mentioned that it is 15 years, then we can go up to 85% as well. As long as there is a firm contract of 10 to 15 years, it's a no-brainer, it's an easy deal. But when you look into the dynamics and you look into the business model of various companies, that is where, I mean, you enjoy financing something which is closer to the end, it's in the last end cycle of things. So we find that bracket quite interesting. So, I mean, the answer to this is that everything depends on the situation, on different companies, different structures, everything can be structured.
I'm quite happy with what Bilal mentioned, but our experience as ship owners have been a bit different. We find it a bit challenging when the vessel comes to a 15, 20 years of age, and we find it quite easy. As Bilal mentioned, there's no brainer when your vessel you build a 10, 15 years old contract in place. It's very easy to follow. The challenge comes when I'm buying an old vessel. I have 1 month time to close this deal. My operations team and S&P team wants to close this out, but from the financing perspective, the lender is like, I need a deployment in place. I need a 3 years deployment in place before I can lend you out. It's impossible for me to buy the vessel, take the delivery, make it operationally fit, and deploy it for a period of 3 years. So those challenges are more which we are facing, specifically when it comes to old tonnage. I think the solution to this is what either we use our own equity, we wait for the deployment, then we get you a right pricing, the right charter hire. The other option might be a bridge finance. Even though it might sound like a bridge finance is expensive borrowing, but I think it helps in the long run. I might go on the bridge, I might pay a higher interest rate for a couple of months, but in the long run it helps. This is a strategy generally which we prefer. So to avoid any, what you can say, rush in either deploying a vessel or in borrowing to maintain our cost of optimum level.
Yeah, I'll come to Tim in a minute. I want to follow on from what you said there, James. When, as Montfort, we are actually a trader as the main holding company. Now, if I go out and say that I want to buy a ship and ask for bank borrowings, and they say, what's your employment? And I say, it's ourselves, because we're a trader. Then the banks turn around and say, you're spot trading. And we go, yeah, because it's our cargo, we have a cargo. They go, sorry, we can't lend you. Then I go to someone in Japan and say, can you build these ships and charter them for 7 years? And I say, certainly. So they go, they borrow the money against a 7-year charter to me. and they get the money, and then I give them the purchase option. So I've just borrowed the money through somebody else and got the same shit. Can a banker explain that to me or a lawyer?
So I think that's not the case with us, for sure. I mean, we understand the structure, we understand the Japanese and the Chinese leasing as well. We have finance cases like that. I mean, we have been quite active on the bargaining space as well, where the customers, they are buying vessels for their own use. So again, I mean, as I said initially, that we first try to understand the business model. We try to, I mean, be in the shoes of the ship owner in order to see if I was the business guy, how would I structure this thing. So I think it all depends on the bank and the financial institutions, how deeply you understand the sector. So this is something that we do, like it's business as usual for us.
Just a quick comment on that. It's a really interesting question. It's something that we have actually seen happening. So in your permutation, you've got a good mid-tier owner. Maybe it's bought, let's say it's bought these vessels from his own equity. It's got strong management. It's got a good long-term vision. It's got a transparent structure. So it's got all the hallmarks of a bank saying, yeah, this looks okay. But the only catch is probably they're a bunker trader or they're a commodity trader. But we have seen deals being done, and we have done deals where banks have financed commodity and or bunker traders, even though they carry their own cargo. So I think the message is speed to go down on myself after.
Okay, so do we have any further questions coming in from the audience? Is there any specific topic that people would like to cover? I think
Putting it up.
time is starting to, we'll use the time, we'll have to carry on for a bit longer.
10 minutes more. If you run out of questions,
Do
you
you
can
have
stop
any
earlier.
questions coming in from people?
Now, they'll put it up on the Slido, so just read out the questions as they are. So they're coming up as we speak. If you want more, it's right away. That's done. Slide more.
Yeah.
You can look up there on the tablet.
There's
There's one on the tablet.
If you are representing a borrower, are there any strategies you would suggest to maximise the chances of taking finance? That's going to take 10 minutes.
Sure. Okay, if I'm representing a borrower, yes, there are a number of things to take into consideration. Look, I think number one, get your house in order. Really, if I'm speaking to a finance director, if I'm speaking to the CFO, and he's looking for finance, get everything in order so you can have that knowledgeable and informed discussion with the bank. Just have a really proactive investor relation strategy, and by that I mean go out there and speak to all the different sources of finance, because I really do believe, and this goes back to one of the earlier questions about how the different parameters affect your financing. I really believe that every project will find the right capital, depending on how it's priced, but every project should find the right capital to accompany it. So really go out and speak with the banks, go and speak to the bondholders, the private equity players, get them to understand your story, take them to the shipyard to see your vessel being built, in 50-degree heat, get them to walk around you so they can tell their own credit team what a great guy you are, what you're planning to do, what your ESG and decarbonization strategy is, so that they understand you. And I think in this market, the financing windows, they're quite volatile as well, and depending on the trades you want to do, they can be very volatile. We've seen recent developments in the Red Sea with these affecting a number of our clients in their usual trades. You've got to factor in what happens if Trump comes in November, a much more protectionist policy. How does that affect your customers' trade? So it's just getting your message out there. It's a volatile market, and having that proactive investor relations strategy.
Okay, does anyone want to add to that? Because I think Before we move on to starting out, I think that the issues that we discussed are green financing or green issues that are there for regulation. Maybe, over the audience, we should probably discuss regulations that are coming in Europe with the EU ETS, fuel EU, and how that's going to impact the entire industry, not just in this region, but globally. And whether we believe, as a panel, that those regulations will spread throughout the world. If Trump gets in, certainly not in America for the next 4 years, but if he doesn't, what do we feel is going to happen with those regulations and the impact it's going to have on shipping?
Yeah, I can talk more on the cost perspective. More regulations, it adds to the cost. It needs to be transferred to the channels. As we have spoken on the carbon credits. Whenever I combine those carbon credits, I have to build in those costs. So we have to see one from the cost perspective and second from the benefit perspective. So if the regulators, they are looking into the new regulations which are coming up, it's adding value, and those are being complied as well. Because it's not just the regulation and the cost, it needs to be complied with. And those things needs to be looked into. And the cost benefit analysis needs to be executed. And as you mentioned, if from this one it might not, but in case if it does, and it gets transferred to the other geographies, then yes, the cost will increase, which everyone needs to be mindful of. And we have to be mindful of the scenario where the current cost itself is on a very higher side. So that needs to be factored in.
I think at the end of the day, it's all about carbon taxation, which will come into play. Because we are not ready. I mean, if I see that the yards are not ready, the technology is not there, the fuel is not there, which is available. So I think it's going to take time, and people will just end up having more taxation on the carbon side. I mean, what options do people have? I think it will take longer period in the GCC area, especially on the offshore. If we talk about oil and gas, it's going to take longer time for that taxation to come in. But I think Europe is getting towards that it will be either the certificates or the taxation.
I think this is the time when I'm actually quite happy and representing a number of OSV operators where fuel EU and deciding principles don't really affect them.
For those that don't know, fuel EU regulations come on the 1st of January next year. For a medium-sized ship, it's going to effectively be a fine of about, and it's not a tax, it's not a carbon credit or anything, it's a fine. It's basically going to be equate to approximately $5,000 for an MR tanker per day. That comes into effect 1st of January 2025, and that will increase to around $4,000 a day in 1st of January 2030. And the only way that you can avoid these fines is by actually moving to alternative fuels. LPG and LNG are exempt until 2040, and then they are subject to the same fines following that. And therefore, it's only green methanol, green ammonia, which don't exist today, that are going to be exempt. And also, in the case of ammonia, there isn't actually the technology to run an engine yet. There's some under development by various providers, but the technology is not there. But the EU has already implemented the regulations and the rules. So it's quite an interesting developments that are happening in the industry on how to do that. So, to sum up, let's see, Jen, can you sum up in less than 10 points?
Optimistic for the future. I think we're in a very buoyant environment at the moment. For the first time, and I think in a long time, the various segments in our industry are all looking up. It's led by offshore marine, which is absolutely fantastic. It's very topical in this jurisdiction in Saudi, and a lot of interest is being placed by the international financiers, the alternative financiers, the vessels, especially on the OSV market. So long may it last.
I think from our perspective, on the cash buying space, there's a very limited business where you have limited cash buyers, you have limited lenders. More or less, the debt segment is being sorted purely from the lending and borrowing perspective. I think on the chartering side, there is still a very big gap, mostly from the local lenders. I think this is where it needs to be stepped up to see how that can help the industry.
I think we are open to business. We are looking for more deals. We are also looking for people, because I saw one of the question was quite good. I mean, I can give out whoever that was. So, yes, thank you very much.
I'm just looking at a question that was missed. In the 2012 MR tanker, with hull machinery value of 38 million, was recently sold for 35 million. Is this price justified? And how do banks tackle the risk of financing such an asset? The answer is no, it's not justified. That ship would have been built for probably around 28, 29 million if it was ordered. But it depends when it was ordered. If it was ordered after 2009, in 2010, it was ordered for below 30 million. So selling it when it's 12 years old for 10 million more than it was contracted for, it's not justified. That ship only has 8 years of life left, and you would have to amortise 38 million to on a ship that size of around 6 million of scrap value at current price. So you need to amortise 32 million in 8 years. So you do the maths yourselves. That's not possible. Whoever's bought that ship will take a loss unless they're doing trade they shouldn't be doing. So that would be my sum up, and I can hand back to Captain.
That was absolutely impressive, Chris. You stole the show in the end. Thank you very much. You've shown us what it would be to avoid $1,000 fine on ESC if you come in Jan, and you answered the fantastic math question, which shows your credibility. Thank you very much, Chris, for being a fantastic moderator. TN, thank you for getting the legal side and perspective in. Sailesh, coming from film background, working for an asset owner now, you added a fantastic perspective from an asset owner's point of view, and you've got money bags. The bank coming in Bilal, and he's spoken his heart out. I think we know how confident a bank has to be to let somebody like Bilal, who has the lending for the bank to come out and speak usually, which he has done today. Thank you for accepting the invitation to my ears and speaking my mind. I think a round of applause is deserved for the panel and as far as strategy is concerned, I don't think we cracked the strategy of ship finance, so we know from where our money comes from. But we still need more competitors to Bilal's bank, which we don't have many here. So you're in a good sweet spot. There are a few funds going around, and the Chinese and the Japanese coming in. But thank you very much, and please stay back. I'll invite Ali on the podium to hand over a small token of appreciation to each one of y'all. Following which, we'll request Ali to stay back. Ali? Yes. Chris? Oh, TN, sorry. That's TN. Lawyer goes first. Thank you. Chris, thank you for accepting the very difficult moderation task. Appreciate it. Chris also resides on the Nautical Institute Committee and is in charge of events, like I am in charge of events for the ICS, and he appreciated the effort that one has put into a panel like this together. Sailesh, thank you very much. And we've got, last but not least, Bilal. Thank you very much, Bilal. Thank you, panelists, for being here. Appreciate your team. You can either jump off or come down the stairs. Thank you. Ali, request you to stand by. I'd like to invite Vincent, please, from ICC on the podium now, who has very kindly done his magic with the International Chamber of Commerce, UAE, which is apparently the shining star in the ICC chapter. Thanks to Vincent. He's a dear friend. Welcome, sir. Thank you. We're going to sign an MOU with the ICC and the ICS Chartership Brokers with with the Director, Richard O'Brien, and Ali Chanani, Chairman of the ACS, of mutual cooperation, cross-pollinating knowledge, and members. So each membership gains from the brilliance that is extended to members and guests. ICC have been supportive of our professional development committee. We partnered with them a number of times, and we already have a commercial arrangement with them, so they are not new to us. We also have a couple of our committee members in their board, isn't it?
Correct. And he's one of us too.
And he's one of us too. He's in FICS too. Vincent Vella. What took you so long to get the sign? I remind you both to have a quick line or two about the vision you have of this MOU and what comes out of it. So before you sign up, we'd like to pick up those mics and please let us know your thoughts so that the members and the guests understand the importance of this. So over to you, Vincent, you the guest. Well,
Hang on.
hey, there you go. What's that?
For you.
You upside down. Vincent, you gotta swing that up. Looks like Arabic. Vincent,
Oh,
unless it's Arabic.
story of my life, upside down.
Vincent, what do you think of the association? Where do you see this going from here?
Well, I think this partnership is really a partnership that was made in heaven, okay? Because what the ICS is about, the Institute of Chartered Ship Brokers, is really the nuts and bolts about what the International Chamber of Commerce is about. So our main role is writing rules and standards for international trade practice, and of course shipping is at the core of all of this. And shipping is actually at the core. So we work together on a number of initiatives, training initiatives, and we found them really successful. The interest from our members in what you're doing is actually exceptional, and I can actually see quite a few of them here this evening, so it's nice to actually have you here. We're also moving forward in another number of initiatives, your knowledge series, we be playing an active role, seminars, workshops, your conference, our Global Trade Facilitation Summit, ICS has always played a role together. And we're looking at a really exciting project. And we started a really exciting project, and that's the transformation of the bill of lading. Now, everyone's talking about e-bills of lading, but we're talking about nuts and bolts. And I'm not going to go into any detail. But you know, to just give you the picture, if we're doing something, it should make a difference. And what we do with ICS makes a difference. So the transformation of the bill of lading is the most simple thing in the world. Everyone's talking about digitalization, but what we're going to do is, as you know, bills of lading issued in a set of three. Okay? But quite frankly, we only need one. Okay? So when we have a set of three, people say, why do we have a set of three? And you guys blame me because I'm a trade finance banker, because in our letters of credit, we always want full set 3 out of 3 bills of lading. But we blame you. We say we call for this because that's how you wish to do that. Okay? So we're going to transform it together. And the ICC rules have been updated recently, International Chamber of Commerce, for letters of credit. So it used to be a requirement for a full set 3 out of 3, going back to UCP 82, long time ago. But the rules changed. So now that all is required is the sole original bill of lading, okay? Unless it's issued in a set, then you need the full set. But if we work together, we can make a huge difference immediately, like turning on the switch. So I'm looking forward to that.
I find him super inspirational. I used to be part of the ICC committee, and he's one of our fellow members. So we work together. This is just a formality. We've been working together for long. But as I said, the last event when we signed the MOU with Dubai Shipping Agents Association, at ICC Middle East, we see no competition. We see only collaboration, and we see collaboration everywhere. In fact, since I've joined in, I found everybody's enthusiastic to make this world better, and we need to tap into the energy and go forward. It's just one step along the way. Thank you very much today.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. Good job.
Thank you, Ali. I've hardly heard anything negative from Ali in the last 1 year that he's led the ICS. He's always so positive about marketing and complimentary. Thank you very much, both of you, for making this lovely association and made it long prosper.
Thank you. Thank you.
To celebrate it over the barbecue again, so that's not that great. All right. I'd like to ask Dinesh to come up to facilitate some of the understanding shipping students who have passed out. Understanding shipping is getting well understood. I think there are more and more joining this course at various levels, and I think it's a fantastic market to tap. There are so many professionals working in a shipping company, agency, and all of those are facilitating the growth. Dinesh, she's not here. There's only one student and she's not here. So Dinesh, thank you for coming up. She won the letter and hope she turned up, but she's not here. There's only one student. I'm only following the agenda. She didn't turn up, sorry. So coming back to understanding shipping. So look into your organizations and see those 5, 7, 10-year-old employees who've been there and who facilitated the business that you all are into, each one of you all, and see and ask yourself a question in top management, or take it up to the top management and ask them whether that particular person or those few individuals who dedicated their years of experience to your organization, do they need a formal educational certificate, need to know more about shipping so that they can do better? They already proven their loyalty. I think each one will have a few in our organization whom we can put up for this course. It has already taken off fantastically in Greece, in the Middle East, and I would see this long prosper. If you look up on your tables, there's a blue flyer which Ali will put up for you to identify. That's all the information we have in there. So take one home and pass it onto your colleagues. I can assure you it's going to be beneficial to the organization. With that plug, I'd like to talk about the knowledge series, ICS virtual class opportunity. We have that up there. You can see the knowledge series that is up on the agenda. So as you can see, we don't sit on our laurels. We do have a scheduled pre-plan. So any of these topics are of interest, please let us know. Take notice of the third one from the top. That is going to be the most interesting one of them all. On the 26th of September, for obvious reasons. Then there is the virtual class on bills of lading that's going to be handled by Dinesh, who's right here, and that's actually the reason why I called him all the way, so everyone identifies the tutor there for the master class. And there's going to be Krishnan Subramanian, one of our past chairman, our current vice president on the global platform. And I missed the corporate tax one on the 13th of September, which Pankaj, our committee member, is going to be. That's him, Pankaj. So if you all are not intending to pay your taxes to the government, he will tell you why it's going to put you into trouble, or how you can optimize your tax, corporate tax, and streamline yourselves. So your accountants can go up to this course and take up the lead. We've got understanding shipping coming up as cohort 4 that's going to kick in. So as you can see, 24th, So this has gone viral. Like I said, we're already on the 4th session of the understanding shipping. I've already spoken enough about this. And last but not the least, I'd like to say that this would not be possible without the support of those who have committed to an annual sponsorship, and some of them you can see on the screens. A special mention here to Mr. Sabu of Transbal, who actually initiated this topic. And if you all are one of these organizations who are here and like the next session to be discussed about your company's certain aspects of discussion or a pain point or a matter of concern, we would have intelligent panel put together or a speaker or two who could take this forward. As a result, it can also become a solution and probably I can take home a few ideas. So you get a certain intangible benefit, which we haven't declared, but it will obviously be acknowledged. It will obviously be thanked for. What we haven't done, and before I close, I want to invite upon a couple of our sponsors who are here. I can see one of them, I think Vikas has left, but Ravi, if you can come in, you can represent ShipFinex and tell us why do you support or why does ShipFinex support the ICS so that it motivates those who are on the borderline thinking of supporting. Probably the bank here will take notice of what you're saying, probably the lawyers might, among probably Montfort, the fund owner pretending to be on the phone right now, can think about it. So please come and tell us why we are sponsored, why you're supporting the ICS, and why should others think about it as well. Please, on behalf of ShipFinex, is he there?
Thank you, Captain. As always, you are amazing, Captain. You all know all the famous Captain Dubai. Thank you.
He's also the vice chairman elect for the next term. So
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. As ShipFinex, we are a startup into fintech. We are trying to create a new innovative way of funding ship owners who can buy ships. And we discussed a lot about civil finance today, but one topic that we missed was what landscape we see in next 3 years or 5 years, 10 years down the line, and how the upcoming ship owners or the ship owners who are looking into the innovative technologies, or ship owners who are going to the methanol fuel or battery power or whatever, how they are going to be funded. And that's where the ShipFinex comes into the being. That okay, it is a tool to get the crowdfunding for the funding of the ships. As ShipFinex, we have always been very innovative in terms of what the community stands for, and that is the reason why we have been supporting ICS, because they are the forefront in maritime education, the innovative way for the people to learn, improve their knowledge in the maritime, and that is the reason we believe that okay, we are providing, giving back to the society by supporting ICS. That's what they have been doing for many years now. It is more than a century that ICS has been working on that. So we have supported for last 2 years, and we plan to continue, plan to do that for a couple of years, because ICS requires our support so that more and more people improve their knowledge. Thanks.
thank you very much. Like you saw, Ravi is not just giving his time, he's also giving his money to support the ICS. So that's not very great. We've also got a couple of others here. Pankaj supports this, he's part of the committee as well. This company supports our ICS efforts, have been for a long time. We've got Islamic P&I representation, who I would like to acknowledge, who also supports us and been supporting here for a year now. We've started identifying legacy supporters, which probably this slide will look different next time. And the definition of legacy supporters have been those who have been annually supporting us year on year ever since we have started this program of annual sponsorship, so that we don't look for a sponsor for each of these events every time that we have. It makes my life easy. All I have to do is look for intelligent panelists like Chris, Tien, Bilal, and Sailesh, who kindly give up their time to enlighten us with the knowledge that they did today. So for you all to attend, we've got a very valuable gift on each one of your tables. Please feel free to take this with you all. It won't fit in your pockets, but it'll definitely fit in the purses the ladies have, the big ones. But it does give you all a lot of information about ICS and also a few blank pages to write love letters on. Thank you very much for coming. If I have entertained you all, there is a charity box outside. Please leave your wallets in there. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Encouraging words. First time I attended this. So I see him for this.
The missing candidate is here before you leave. Dinesh. Sorry, we chose a moment where you were not here. Please come on. Dinesh is looking up for education. Dina, please. Thank you.
Keep coming.
Thank you for supporting us and please pass it to your colleagues as well. Understanding shipping, she'll pass the modules. Thank you very much. Want to say something how we found the course?
I found it very interesting, but I didn't realize it was a beginner course. So maybe I should take a few more courses than the intermediate ones.
Yeah,
But
it starts
very
somewhere.
helpful.
Yeah,
Very
you
helpful.
recommend it to your colleagues? Yeah, thank you very much. So this session has been live streamed. It is already on the ICS portal. So if you want to pass it to your colleagues, the ICS Middle East LinkedIn page would have this live. So please share it. Chris, you can send it to your colleagues as well, because you sound really interested. I'm very impressed. And so did the rest of the panelists. Thank you very much. And the snacks are out there, please enjoy. This time is really finished.